A major scandal has rocked Ferrari again. The Formula One world was shocked by an engineer's shocking confession of
Lewis Hamilton's crash at Zandvoort was not simply the result of a fleeting lapse in concentration, or the kind of racing misjudgment that even the greatest occasionally suffer. Rather, it stood as a stark symbol of something far more unsettling that may be unfolding within Ferrari's grand project. For those who saw the accident as just a missed apex or a mistimed throttle application, the surface explanation is too neat, too easy, and dangerously misleading. The deeper reality is that what transpired in the Netherlands may be a vivid demonstration of a fundamental misalignment between a 7-time world champion who built his reputation on mastering the most difficult machinery in the sport, and Aid Saos, car whose character seems not only unwilling to bend to him, but almost actively working to erode his legacy. From the outside, Ferrari's signing of Hamilton was meant to be the ultimate statement of intent. The greatest driver of his era paired with Formula One's most historic team, a marriage designed to rekindle championship ambitions and summon echoes of Schumacher's dynasty. Yet at Zandvoort, instead of renewal, what we witnessed was fragility exposed, confidence shaken, and a narrative that now risks spiraling away from redemption and toward disillusionment. To understand how dramatically things unraveled, we must retrace the weekend from its very beginning, when what should have been a routine practice session began to reveal ominous cracks. Friday practice rarely tells the full story in Formula One, but it usually provides rhythm and stability, allowing a driver to learn track evolution, find confidence in the car, and establish the baseline for the weekend's work. Instead, Hamilton's FP1 was anything but routine. On a circuit where commitment is everything, the SF25 suddenly betrayed him without warning. In one moment, the rear end simply snapped, throwing him into a spin that arrived so abruptly there was no chance of recovery. This was not the gradual creeping instability of an edgy setup, not the kind of oversteer a driver senses, manages, and tames. This was instantaneous chaos, the car behaving in a way that seemed almost alien. It was a disorienting sight, a champion known for his car control stepping out of the cockpit looking genuinely perplexed. Hours later, in FP2, the nightmare repeated. Another sudden loss of grip, another pirouette, another scene of Hamilton shaking his head as he climbed out. These moments should have been enough to trigger alarm bells across the Ferrari garage. For context, Hamilton has throughout his career been the master of adapting to tricky machinery. Whether it was the unpredictable McLaren of 2009, the turbo-hybrid Mercedes in its early experimental stages, or wet conditions that demanded razor edge precision, he had always found a way to bend the car to his will. But at Zandvoort, the look on his face was unmistakably different. It was not the calm of a driver cataloging balance issues for his engineers. It was the unease of someone realizing that the car's behavior defied the expected playbook of physics. Whispers in the paddock began almost immediately. Was Hamilton still struggling to mesh with Ferrari's unique philosophy? Had the much vaunted upgrades to the SF25 created an even narrower operating window? Or was there something more worrying at play? A deeper incompatibility between one of the sport's most instinctive drivers and a machine designed to respond to a very different driving style. And yet, as so often happens in Formula One, the story twisted in unexpected fashion the very next day. When Saturday dawned, the car appeared transformed. Hamilton, who on Friday had looked like a passenger to Ferrari's volatility, suddenly found rhythm. In FP3, the car responded more predictably, the balance stabilized, and Hamilton's confidence appeared to return. By qualifying, he was no longer fighting the car, but coaxing performance out of it. A P7 grid slot was hardly headline-grabbing, yet in context, it felt like a small victory, a validation that the turbulence of Friday was just part of the adaptation curve. The relief inside Ferrari was palpable. Engineers who had looked shaken only 24 hours earlier were reassured. The paddock chatter shifted from whether Hamilton was struggling to whether Ferrari had finally unlocked the potential of its package. The team began plotting strategy, tire usage, and possible weather scenarios, quietly daring to hope that this might be the breakthrough weekend. Zandvoort rewards boldness, and in Hamilton, They had the master strategist, the man who had triumphed in countless mixed-condition races. His interviews on Saturday evening radiated a more relaxed aura. He spoke with calmness about patience, about the long game, about the team's trajectory. For the first time in weeks, the tone in Maranello's camp was optimistic, but the optimism was deceptive, a mirage shimmering just long enough to be mistaken for reality. By Sunday morning, the first tremor cracked the surface. A minor investigation for a potential yellow flag infringement at pit entry hardly registered. As significant on paper, but in the psychologically charged world of Formula One, such distractions can erode focus. Margins are tiny, distractions costly, and the team began the day with a cloud hovering above what should have been clarity. When the lights went out, Hamilton launched well, slotting behind George Russell, managing the opening laps with composure. The predicted rain loomed on the horizon, and Hamilton was executing exactly as he needed, keeping within DRS range, preserving his tires, preparing to strike when conditions shifted. Then came Ferrari's decisive call. Spotting the chance of an undercut, they instructed Hamilton to box. The opportunity was real. A well-timed stop could have vaulted him past Russell, reshaping the complexion of his race. Hamilton's voice on the radio was steady, even eager. He knew the stakes. He sensed the chance to flip the script of his weekend. The silence that followed was brutal, not only over the radio as Hamilton gathered himself, but across the Ferrari garage, where faces dropped in collective disbelief. This was no mechanical failure to blame, no act of cruel fortune. It was human error, magnified by circumstance, and everyone knew it. Hamilton's immediate apology over the radio carried a weight that words cannot fully convey. In the past, Hamilton had been as much a master of narrative as of the car, using interviews to deflect pressure, inspire confidence, or subtly reframe blame. But this time, there was none of that. No fiery defense, no pointed remarks at strategy, no public display of resilience. Instead, there was near silence, measured, deliberate, but heavy. He walked through interviews with head lowered, shoulders tight, offering little more than restrained acceptance. This was not the silence of detachment, but the silence of someone replaying every millisecond of that fateful corner, unable yet to make peace with it. In the hyper-scrutinized world of Formula One media, where every phrase can spark headlines, his restraint spoke louder than anger ever could. The weekend that was supposed to mark the turning of a page had instead underlined how fragile the Ferrari Hamiltons' project remains. Fans and pundits alike had expected Zandvoort to be the breakthrough, the moment when adaptation finally bore fruit, when Hamilton could prove that his decision to join Ferrari was not a romantic gamble, but a calculated masterstroke. Instead, it produced the opposite, a portrait of momentum stalling, belief wavering, and questions multiplying. And those questions are not going away. Can Hamilton truly adapt to a Ferrari whose handling characteristics may simply clash with his instincts? Is the team's technical philosophy fundamentally at odds with what he needs to extract his best? Or are we witnessing a deeper incompatibility, one that no amount of upgrades or optimism can paper over? For Ferrari, the nightmare is that their bold gamble risks turning into a public unraveling. For Hamilton, the danger is that the narrative shifts from redemption to decline, from proving doubters wrong to validating their skepticism. One crash at Zandvoort cannot alone define a season, but it can serve as a revelation. And the revelation here is troubling. Ferrari's operation remains brittle under strain, and their partnership with Hamilton, rather than rewriting history, currently looks precarious. If you are a Ferrari supporter, the sight of your new champion spinning into the barriers, while the other car drifts aimlessly, must feel like déjà vu, a replay of old wounds. If you are a Hamilton loyalist, the fear is even sharper, that the man who once seemed untouchable may be trapped in a project that resists his influence. Zandvoort, then, was not just another race gone wrong. It was a moment that crystallized uncertainty, magnified pressure, and hinted at futures far less triumphant than the ones imagined when Hamilton signed on. Whether it proves to be the beginning of the end, or merely a brutal bump in the road, remains to be seen. But one truth is undeniable. What happened on that Dutch banking revealed more than a crash. It revealed a partnership under strain, a dream at risk, and a sport once again reminding us that in Formula One, legacies can pivot on the smallest of margins, and empires can begin to crumble in the space of a single corner.